Welcome to U.S. Visa Questions Answered Here.
Welcome to U.S. Visa Questions Answered Here with Immigration Attorney Frances Hayden. For decades, Frances has focused on consular processing of non-immigrant visas at U.S. embassies and consulates worldwide, with a special emphasis on third country national visa processing. I'm your host, Zofia Morales, and today's episode is Common Mistakes That Derail Visitor Visa Applications. Welcome, Frances. I'm so happy to have you back with me today.
Thank you, Zofia. Nice to be here.
So what are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're applying for a visitor visa?
Well, the worst thing you can do is fib, or outright lie, or try to hide anything. A lot of people think that if they were denied before, or if they had a criminal record, they think it's been disappeared and it's not there. But you have to include everything and be very complete in your application. The other thing that people do wrong a lot, I would say the most common mistake, is to emphasize all the people that they have in the United States who are going to support them financially and emotionally and in every other way, instead of proving that they can pay their own way. Because if you show, oh, my family's going to pay for everything, they've got all this money, and you fill out, even some people fill out the informal affidavit of support. If you can't prove you can pay your own way, it's very difficult to get the visa. Because if you have those people supporting you, why would you come back?
Exactly. When you were saying it, I'm thinking, what, are they trying to immigrate?
That's it. But I would say most people that I speak with think that that's the right thing to do. Okay. And so I try to instruct them to instead look for their own resources and how they are going to pay for it and how they have money in the bank. They don't have to lie about who they're going to see. That's another big mistake people make. They say, no, I don't have relatives in the United States, because agents or other friends tell them, no, if you say you have family, they'll deny you. But if you have them and you lie about it and they find out, that's very serious. And also it makes you uncomfortable at the interview if you have all these things you have to hide.
Right. And that comes across in your energy when you're talking to somebody.
Yes. I often say that the most valuable thing you have in a visa interview is your credibility. That's number one.
Yeah. And even the least little fib dings that credibility.
It really does. I mean, the average visa interview, they say, is 90 seconds, a minute and a half. Okay. So if you lose your credibility in the first 5 seconds, you're done. They don't take the time to dig further. That said, I have heard of many visa interviews that go much longer. But the usual, especially with visitor visas that are fairly simple, to the officer, they make a decision within the first few seconds that you're at the window. And because it's a person-to-person interaction, credibility is assessed by body language, the way in which you speak, whether you feel confident, all those things go into it. And the decision is made like, boom, snap decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You know, when you're going through immigration processes, there are all kinds of forms with letters and numbers and all the things. And so tell us what the DS-160 is and when do I have to turn that in?
Okay. That is the electronic visa application form for people who are applying for non-immigrant visas. In other words, any visa that is not a green card or permanent residence. It's required. You fill it out online through a link. You select the country that you're going to apply in, and you create a security question and put in your year of birth and the first 5 letters of your surname. And once you do that, the form pops up for you to fill out. You have to remember the security question. Everybody knows their surname and their year of birth, so that you can get back in later, because you don't have to fill it all out at one time. It's a form that is interactive. So if you answer certain questions a certain way, new things pop up for you to fill out. It's glitchy. It can close out and you can lose your information.
Oh, man.
If you advance to the next page, the page is saved. The entire form is available for just 30 days. So if you take a really long time to fill it out, all the data that you entered, poof,
Oh,
disappeared.
no.
Yeah. Once you've submitted it, it's there for, I believe you can use it for at least a year. So,
Okay.
but during the process, if you put a whole lot of interesting information in one page, if you don't advance to the next page before it times you out or before you press exit, it will all not be there when you go back. And so I've had many, many different
That's
frustrating experiences myself
frustrating.
with this.
Yeah.
And also, it matters which browser you use. A big tip is that if you use Google Chrome, you're fine. But if you use Safari, for example, the form will not work. It won't
Oh,
advance. It'll give you all kinds of weird glitches, and people run into that with a lot of frequency. It's not an easy form. It has a lot of questions that confuse people.
can you give us an
It's
example of one of these confusing questions?
People want to know that they're asked who their contacts should be in the United States, and they don't know who they should pick. People are confused by, what do you mean you need my last 5 entries to the United States? And they don't realize that you have to put exactly how many days you stayed,
Ah,
and counting up those days is odd sometimes, because if people are here on a work visa, they might have stayed for a year or more, and they don't remember how
the
many times
exact
they
date.
traveled.
Yeah.
There is something called travel history
Mhm.
that you can look up using your biographic information in your passport,
Oh,
your name, date of birth, your passport number, and you can go to the Customs and Border Protection or CBP website, or just Google travel history US, and you can put in that information. And if it's working correctly, which it usually does, you get a whole list of all your entries and exits for a long period of time.
oh, how
Usually
helpful is that? I love
it's
that.
super helpful. And so you can calculate it from that. Things like that that are just kind of time consuming and frustrating, that people are like, well, what do I do?
Yeah, and nitpicky in some ways.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
extremely nitpicky. It has like 3 pages of security questions, all of which most people can answer no to. Like, have you ever engaged in human trafficking? Have you recruited child soldiers by force?
Oh,
Are you a drug addict? All kinds of things that are kind of shocking. Most people just go through no, 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 no on those, luckily. But you have to read every one of them to be
just
sure.
to be sure. Exactly.
Other
Exactly.
thing about it is it needs your work history for the last 5 years. And they don't just ask, where do you work? They ask, when did you start? Describe your duties. What's the address? What's the phone number? Who was your supervisor? And people sometimes don't have that on hand. I have a questionnaire that I've developed for the form that I send to people to fill out. And I fill out a draft of the form, which
Mhm.
I send to them in either by PDF or to have them sign in and ask them. And then I develop a list of questions of all the things they didn't put on the questionnaire. And they tend to leave out the travel history. They tend to leave out their work history.
Right.
And I have to like hunt them down to get it. Then when I have a nice final draft of it, I send it back to them for a final review before it is submitted, because they're responsible for what's in there. I
Yeah.
can't take responsibility for it. I can't answer all the questions for them. I can advise them on things they have doubts about, but I don't have everybody's biographical information, their mother and father's birth dates, where they're located, pesky details.
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned that once you have this form completed, it's good for about a year. How far in advance of travel do you want to turn it in?
You have to turn it in before you have your visa interview. True deadline is 48 hours prior to the visa interview, but really you should submit it before you can make a visa appointment and then submit it. The problem that people run into with that is that when they do their visa appointment and then the form disappears because they waited too long, or there's some glitch, or they don't have their security question. And then what happens is, nowadays, this didn't used to be the case when this form first started, but nowadays if the number generated by the DS-160, which is a number that starts with AA and some digits and numbers after that, if that number is different on your appointment notice than what you present when you go to the consulate or embassy, nowadays most places won't even let you inside and you have to reschedule. Yeah. It's bad. So I would suggest submitting it first before you make your visa appointment, unless you're in a dramatic hurry and you need to go ahead and grab that appointment, but just make sure that you fill out and submit the application as soon as you can so that the file number for the DS-160, that number that starts with AA, is still correct and that you can complete the application with that number. If you don't, you can start a new one and that's fine. The problem is now it has to match the appointment.
Yeah, that cross-reference to the appointment.
Yeah.
So can you update that after the appointment's made, or you're not really able to do that?
You used to be able to. There is a method to go in and create a new application from the previous one. Like, let's say you accidentally put your wrong birth date or something, or your passport number is off, or your name is spelled wrong. You can create a new form from the old one by going into the system, because once it's been submitted, you can't access it online anymore.
Right.
But it'll ask you, do you want the confirmation page or do you want to start a new form? And if you start a new form, about 80 to 90% of the information you already input is in there. And you just have to go in and fill in what's missing and correct it and resubmit it. But in all of these cases of errors, you really have to make a new appointment, because if your appointment notice also has your passport number and your name and your date of birth, and those cannot be updated. That said, now that they're policing this a little more, different consulates offer different options. Some say you can't update it at all. Some say we'll let you update it one time. And so they allow that. So it just depends on, you have to check the individual instructions for the consulate where you're applying.
All right. So speaking of, why do they ask for my social media accounts and usernames on the form?
Yes, this makes a lot of people mad. They feel like it's an invasion of privacy and they don't want to give it. Even prior to the current administration, that question was on the form. As of, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, they look you up. They want to see what you're up to, and they want to track you more and more. Recently, the current administration announced that they're going to be vetting social media for every visa application. That was not necessarily the case before. So now, more than ever, they want that information. And they're using technology much more than they used to. So the more information they have about you, the more they can dive into who you are, what you've done in the past, what sorts of things are you saying. And you really shouldn't leave that portion blank because it looks suspicious. I have children, of course, don't usually have them. Young children.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Now, I don't know when parents allow them to start, but I think they have social media fairly early, right? But there are little kids who don't have any social media, and that's not suspicious. However, I've had clients who just say no. They just, on my questionnaire, they say, no, I have no social media. And I always have to, if it's an adult, I always have to double check and say, is that really true? Well, actually, yeah, I do have Facebook and Instagram, and I have X, and I'm on LinkedIn. I'm like, okay, well, can you please give me that information? Occasionally, very, very occasionally, I've had somebody who really doesn't have any social media, but most people do.
Yeah, I was going to say my father would have fit in that category.
Yes, older people, definitely.
Yes.
That's a good point. It's the very young and the very old. It's not suspicious if they don't have it.
So do missing documents also raise red flags during the review process?
Not really. This is the thing also that's another surprising thing that people often say, I'm sure you've even heard this yourself, that they denied me without even looking at my documents. And that's true. It happens a lot because consular officers find documents unreliable. At the same time, the contradiction is because in many countries, documents can just be created. and they don't necessarily have a way to double check all of them to make sure they're true. So they rely more on their gut instinct about whether the person is credible and what the person says to them at the interview. That's the critical thing. On the other hand, the contradiction is that we still have to prepare a lot of documents just in case they ask for them. So in the really basic documents for a visa application for a visitor visa are the confirmation page from your DS-160, your appointment notice, and your passport. If you forget those, you can't get in the door, particularly
Right.
the confirmation of the DS-160. You cannot get in the door without that. But other documents that we always tell people to prepare are obviously bank records, job, proof that you have a job, or if you're a student, proof that you're enrolled in school, an itinerary for your travel, even if it's not purchased, but dates showing when you're going to go. The documents regarding any kind of ownership of assets, documents regarding having family in the home country that you're going to depart to take the visiting trip from, to show that you have something to come back to. But 9 times out of 10, they don't look at it. And I like to warn people that. Another thing about documents I always say is that it's a huge mistake to have the whole pile of documents, maybe not even organized very well, and put them out there on the counter in front of the officer so that they think you're well documented. And usually that creates a problem, because if the officer feels they have to look through all this, they'll say, well, I can't make a decision right now.
Oh, God,
Now
yeah.
I'm going to deny your case because I don't have enough information and I can't look through all this right now. So we'll get back to you.
Yeah. Oh, you don't want to be in bureaucratic limbo. No.
Yeah. Oh, bureaucratic limbo. I can barely even say it. It happens a lot. So you have your documents extremely well organized. And I usually tell people the essential thing to get in the door on the top. And then beneath that, the next thing we think you might need to show if asked. Beneath that, the things we think are unlikely. And beneath that, maybe the things that, God forbid they ask for this, because I never want to show it. So it's like that. You have to put it in tiers and never
Yeah.
submit anything that's not asked for. Unless I
Exactly.
expect you to. Like in some cases, I tell people, I'm going to write a little letter to explain a legal point. I usually only do a paragraph. And give this to them with X, or give
Yeah.
this to them when they start asking you about Y. And that works out pretty well.
Okay. Excellent. It sounds like working with an attorney really helps people avoid the pitfalls when they're in the process of submitting this application.
It does. I mean, it's one of those visas that you really should be able to do it yourself, one of the few ones. And I thought for many, many years that was the case. And even when people were denied, there really wasn't anything I could do. But then I started noticing that people do make these fundamental mistakes, both in what they present and what they say at the interview, and they're unprepared for things that are very basic, and that can get you denied. For example, a mother coming to visit her child that has recently had a baby. She doesn't know what he does for a living, and she doesn't know where he lives. Things like
Oh,
that. Seriously, that
yeah.
in one case, I prepped a woman for an interview that was like that. Just a nice grandmother, but she wasn't involved in details and addresses. And she really didn't even know what her son did for a living in the United States. It was vague to her. It was in a different language,
Yeah.
So she needed to be prepared for things that are very basic that people forget about. And they also get nervous.
And then you tend to blab on about things you should probably be quiet about.
Exactly. Yes. They feel like it's a performance.
Yeah.
That they're there to give their presentation. And maybe in a minor way, but mostly it's try to read the officer. It's what would you call it? Like an emotional intelligence test. You need to see, where's this person coming from? What do they want to know? Are they in a hurry, or do they want to chat? Be present and listen is very important at the visa interview.
Beautiful. Thank you for all of this amazing information today, Frances. This is extremely helpful.
You're so welcome. My pleasure.
Thanks for joining us on U.S. Visa Questions Answered Here with Immigration Attorney Frances Hayden.
We hope today's conversation gave you clarity and confidence as you navigate the immigration process. If you have any questions or need legal support, visit haydenimmigrationlaw.com to schedule a consultation. And remember to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Your support helps others find the guidance they need. And until next time, take care and stay empowered.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.